This is our morning mojo for Wednesday hump day. Welcome everybody. Hopefully the lays and the other swag that Crystal sent us is helping us mentally transport to a nice balmy location. For those of you that aren't in Colorado and it's very snowy. Cindy, what's happening in Denver?
Well, in Denver, in Southwest Denver, the sun just came out and the snow is not snowing. So it's looking good here, but you never know.
And we understand that in northern Denver area, it's still snowing. So let's get back to our task at hand and give you a little bit of a review from yesterday and some highlights in case you missed it. Yesterday at the second half of our morning mojo, we talked about the teacher network. So if you're not on the network, consider joining that. It's an incredible resource and there's tons of people there that can give you assistance and ideas and suggestions.
And Sherry is one of them.
Oh yeah, well,
Who's a mentor.
one of many. There's many of us. We also had some talk about what's new at the Library of Congress, which I need to share with you. I mean, even though I was in DC for many years and have worked with them for a long time, there's still things to learn. And yesterday in that session that Keith and Kyle did, they talked about the new mission of the Educational Outreach Department, which is what it was called when I was there, and it's gone through 3 or 4 names since then. But basically, the expanded mission beyond K-12 is to any entity that has an educational mission. So public libraries, it could just be about anything. So that's a really big change for what's happening at the library. Cindy, you wanted to mention something about the timeline?
I do. One of my very favorite early presentations, essentially sources, was done by Colorado Jim Geezy, who's a Boulderite. And so they've revamped it. So now the primary source timeline is more awesome than ever. But when I used to use it with my students, it was kind of cumbersome at that point. Great information, but now it's just easy to work with and it's a wonderful resource.
Great. And then we also learned a little bit about WDL. Cindy, you wanted to share about that?
Well, WDL collection went to the library, so it's not in the same place, but the information is still there.
So that's the world. Some of us with the lingo, the World Digital Library, which was a project that they did with UNESCO libraries around the world. So that content still exists. I particularly like the highlight on the story maps. They're amazing, and still I have a goal that someday in my future I'll learn how to do that. But the technology is a little bit of a challenge, so hopefully maybe it'll become really easy to use as it evolves. But the story maps are something that you should check out. And then also the mention about the openings for teacher and resident opportunities to go to the library, to be there for a time period. Sometimes it might be for the summer if you're there as an intern, but the teacher in residence program is what I was able to participate in, where basically you're a human interlibrary loan and you go to DC for the school year and the library reimburses your school district for your salary and benefits. Amazing opportunity. So watch for those applications coming down the pike. We also had a session yesterday from Denver Public Library, extensive resources, and I was surprised to know that any Colorado resident can become a Denver Public Library member. And then Cindy, you had something about the resources?
Well, the handout that's connected to the 11 a.m. session was wonderful. Links to all kinds of things at the Denver Public Library, the Western History, Color for Coloradans, And I have somebody working on a project for the encyclopedia and was having trouble finding, of all people, Adolf course. So I sent this to her and she's going, oh, everything I need is here. So very useful. Be sure you get it. And then,
And we, oh, go ahead.
well, at 2:00, Kyle and Raleigh did a session on text sets. And something that had gone on the day before with Peggy, Raleigh, and Kyle, when they talked about text being more than just a written word, which I tend to think of textbooks, but that text means all kinds of media, different cartoons, images, writing, audio, video, all kinds of things. So I thought that was interesting that that's the context for the word texts.
And then last night we had the keynote speaker for Tuesday, Dr. William Way. Fascinating discussion and lots of opportunities to think about how we think regarding lots of topics, but bias and point of view. And he has an amazing book that I don't know if Michelle can show her copy with 8 million little sticky notes in it, but there's a discount that's available. And Cindy, you want to tell them where they can find that coupon for his book?
It's connected to his talk from last night. And as you will see from Michelle and Laura, tons of uses for this book. And just if you're a Coloradan, lots to look at your heritage, about your heritage. And to think that you only could pick 100 items to represent the whole of Colorado history. One that tickles my fancy was Crocs. That you don't usually think of Crocs being part of your Colorado heritage.
Yeah, you think of it more somewhere flip-flops, but all right. And then looking forward to what's coming up today. At the end of this little Mojo session, we're going to have highlights that Laura and Michelle are going to share about 100 artifacts. But let's look at just a few of the other things that are coming. At 9 o'clock, there's going to be a session on trauma-informed practices that Raleigh and Kyle, I believe, have put together. And then at 11, we have National History Day. I'm not sure presents for that. That was one of the questions.
But helping them master, right? Helping students master learning to write the thesis statement. And that's often the hardest thing for students to be. Once they get that, they're off and running. At 2 p.m., we've got primary source conversations working with audio. I believe that Sherry's in on that with Kyle. And then, and me. And tonight we have John McLean, who's going to do Home Waters, A Legacy Renewed. He's from Montana, and it should be really exciting. And then visit the TPS partners in the resource area. We've got some great partners and great things to look at. Sherry, with that, are we wrapping up?
Yeah, I think so. So Michelle and Laura, you want to, or did anyone else have any comments or things that were necessary to share with everyone before Michelle and Laura start?
I would love to jump in and say that if you are tying the learning that you have in your classroom to the environment, to literature, to the larger conversation about maps, the rivers of our country, and just history, John is somebody not to miss. Whether you can join this evening for Mr. McLean or join asynchronously on your own time, I would encourage you to listen to his conversation. A tremendous writer, a newspaper writer that is also an author of multiple books. He's an outstanding presenter, just as William has been and our other presenters throughout the week. You don't want to miss him. join in tonight if you can, or take a look asynchronously. We'll be sharing resources tonight in the session as well, which we'll also post. We have great people coming up as well this week as we're sharing on the slides too, but it's a special honor to have William as our past state historian last night, and then also having John this evening. And then we look forward to Ms. Potter and Sarah Westbrook with us from RQI this week and talking about questioning on Friday.
And do we have an update on Goose Chase?
We actually have some guests. We have invited the Jedi Council this morning to help us tell you about what's going on in the Goose Chase. So here we are. And we are very excited with we have some high point people so far. Hoyt K with over 8,000, and Kay Walkster, she was top of the leaderboard yesterday. But as part of the Jedi Council, I will tell you there were 3 things that I really noticed. We in this group, we are partial to librarians. So when someone turned in with the history today in history was about camels, and they gave us a resource that my librarian is a camel, well, that earned them some extra points with us. We love that. And we love that people are using Kay Hoyt. Actually, she showed us that she made a copy of the Pear Deck to use in her classroom. And then also we had Paula, who got into the museums for digital learning, and she noticed that rather than get rid of a collection that was perceived to be racist, they re-examined that collection, and she was really appreciative of that. So we love the comments, keep them coming. We're giving lots of bonus points. We did have to give a few, we did have to take a few points away, but we're having fun in Goose Chase, and keep it up.
Follow those instructions. That's a huge piece. And there'll be surprise questions throughout the week that give you an opportunity to explore new resources.
Can I jump in and ask a question backing up? Is John McLean related to Norman McLean?
Absolutely. John McLean is Norman McLean's son. In fact, his book, Home Waters, that we'll be speaking about tonight, is often called a sequel to A River Runs Through It. John will tell you it's actually not a sequel. It's actually the next steps in understanding our rivers and our world of the West and our country. But he is his son. He fished with his dad. We had the opportunity, several of us had the opportunity to be with John on the Blackfoot River this summer and walk the path of A River Runs Through It with him, and walk Home Waters areas with him as well. And we'll be sharing that resource in that video that Montana Museum Association put together along with Montana Public Television and the Teaching with Primary Sources program. You know, having John together to talk the Teaching with Primary Sources piece and talk about the river as a primary source and these historic places was very rich. He'll discuss that tonight, but Home Waters, many people say it's the unfinished business of A River Runs Through It.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I think we're ready for our 100 artifacts and Zoom.
All right, let's rock and roll. Are you ready for some tech? Laura, I'm going to put you in the driver's seat and we're going to join this together. We are thrilled to be here. We usually try to share some really great things with you tied to our speakers, but also put a tech twist. And today we're going to give you that tech twist through the use of Padlet. Many of you know Padlet, you've used it, but there's some great functionality that you may not have tried before. So we actually took a deep dive into William's book, Becoming Colorado, the Centennial State in 100 Artifacts or 100 Objects. And we started playing with Padlet with our students and with our thought process around how do we use engagement through Padlet to encourage student inquiry and questioning. So today we're going to give you some examples, but then also give you resources that you can use as well. Laura, I'm going to turn this to you because this is an amazing choice board and I want you to talk about it.
So I think we often forget with Padlet, we just go in and choose the wall that we're used to, usually the wall. And there are so many other, there are 7 other options inside of Padlet. We're going to feature 6 of them today and give you examples, because Padlet has really upped their game in terms of student engagement. And you can choose the Padlet that meets the instructional need for your lesson. And so be thoughtful. We want to give you some ideas and help to remind you that these options are available inside of Padlet. So we'll walk through this. We'll walk through this choice board with the wall, the canvas, the stream, the shelf. These are all the different types of boards that Padlet offers. And we're just going to give you a short example using the 100 artifacts for each one.
And I really want to jump in and say that we also need to think, as we have moved back and forth between a digital environment, a learning environment that's in person, a hybrid, really what we should be thinking about is how we're raising those levels of critical thinking. If you've been with us in the past with Teacher Librarian Days, you've heard us talk about the SAMR model, about really raising that application level to have kids show what they're learning and really show that critical thinking. We've had some questions about that, both in Whova and also in Goose Chase, about how do I teach critical thinking? How do I work with that? And these Padlets help to raise that level of critical thinking and take what you would be doing maybe in the classroom and step it up one level.
All right, let's give you some examples. We put this choice board in chat, so you're welcome to click into that. It's also in the documents in Whova. But if you click, so let's go to the first Padlet wall. If you click here, you can get in, and the example that we chose is the 6-word story. We actually have a folder that we've linked to this with pictures from the Becoming Colorado book, and you can choose one of these pictures, download it, and then we like to do this with students. We just, it begins to fill up, so you select your artifact, you add a post, add your picture, and add your 6-word story. And having to write a 6-word story really makes kids think about something in a critical way. If you can Google it, then we always say that to kids. If you can Google it, then you're only working at the memorization level. We want you to move up into that analyzing and synthesizing. And a 6-word story really pushes kids to synthesize an artifact, a picture, some kind of a primary source, and create a 6-word story with that. We'd love to hear some of your 6-word stories in this too.
Exactly. So we encourage you to jump in. We're going to give you a linked document in a tab that'll allow you to go in and put a 6-word story if you like. I'm going to share the folder of images in chat as well, so that you have access to the images that you see here on Padlet. I would really encourage you to jump in and try it out.
If you click right in Padlet on the instructions, you get access to that folder as well. You'll notice with Padlet, so I have some options when I'm posting. I can upload an image, I can add a link, I could even put a YouTube video, I can do a drawing. So there are so many options to add to your post. And kids love this functionality and to be able to add a GIF. So it really is responsive, and they've added many more options to be able to upload and tell your story or to add to your post inside of Padlet.
It also levels the playing field for your students because of the audio capability, the video additions. Students can respond in many different ways. And so if writing may be a difficulty for some, an audio option may be a choice that they can use. And opening those choices to students allows them to respond in the functionality or the way that they want to. And that may be a really good thing for differentiation.
So you see how fast that goes. So that's one idea. That's a 6-word story. Go back to our choice board and let's look at the canvas. So Padlet has a canvas which actually helps you to make connections. We kind of call it our Making Connections board as well. So you'll notice here that and Michelle's going to show you one, and you can get in here and make a connection too. You can actually move them around. It's very responsive to grouping, you can have the labels or not have the labels. So you could start with the primary source. So our primary source that we started with was Houston, we have a problem.
So I want to talk about that. We did not know that the statement, Houston, we have a problem, was actually a statement that came from a Colorado person. It's actually a CU graduate, Jack Swigert, and his outfit is in William's book, but also in the collections of History Colorado. You can see that we posted him up here on the left. And we really thought about where can we find other resources? And we were looking to connect this statement, this quote, not only locally, but also on a national and an international level. And so that's really where we went with it. So you can see here that we've got a newspaper article. We also have the Russian response to the moon race. And then we went to the JFK Presidential Library. What I love with this as well is there is a labeling feature. So when you click your center image and you go in to actually edit it or connect to it, it's wonderful because you just click connect to a post, and then you can click on the post itself and write something. So in here, I'm going to put primary source, and you'll see it in just a moment since I'm not sharing my screen, but I'm going to put primary source from the government. I can spell and talk at the same time. And then I'm going to hit connect. And when I do that, it's going to connect that report to the center image. This is really an interesting concept. What we also found is you can connect images the other way. If you want your arrow to go certain ways, you have to start with your center image and go out, but you can also bring in other images and connect them to different things. So I actually can connect these other images to each other as well. I don't have to just connect them to one. So it gives some really interesting ways to think about how students look at a primary source, how we can really analyze it and see how this connects globally for us as well as nationally, and how something as simple as a statement like Houston, we have a problem, really connects back to Colorado. We kind of laughed because a lot of times as teachers, we actually use that statement. We're like, Houston, we got a problem, stop the class and go on. We didn't realize until we read Becoming Colorado and started investigating through inquiry that this is where we were. So it's pretty cool. Thanks, Kent. He was elected to Congress, and that's a pretty neat piece. He also has a statue now that's in DIA. It traveled around the state of Colorado and then was placed at Denver International Airport as well. So thanks for adding that, Kent. That's great.
We love this.
Laura, you want to go to the next one?
Think about this with grouping or some of your graphic organizers as well. So you can do all kinds of connections and grouping and work with that board. All right, let's move on down to a Padlet stream. This is what a Padlet stream looks like. We often think of it like the stream of a social media account, Facebook, Instagram, something like that. These are the reflections from last night. William Way, Dr. Way asked us last night to define who's an American, and these were the responses and the reflections, but you can see that it just works like a social media account and scrolls through, and you can continue to add. If you just click on the plus sign, you can add another post.
So if you're a one-to-one situation in a classroom, you can have Chromes or phones because Padlet is mobile friendly open, and you can use this as a reflection option or maybe as a brainstorming option as well. And this will feed and continue to move and direct students. And then you can go back and scroll through it and have conversation around it, which is really great. So you can see Laura just typed in another comment and it pops in there. So another way to also think about formative assessment in using an entrance or an exit ticket with your students, that may be an option too.
The students can also create a social media account for a historic person or a historic artifact, like use some personification of an artifact and create what their social media account might look like. All right, let's look at a Padlet shelf. So in the shelf, Padlet allows you to categorize and add columns so you can organize your lesson or your discussion. In this case, our primary sources around columns, around categories, and then just continue. You'll notice there's a plus at the bottom of each column, so you can continue to add to that column. And we've added some themes here in this one from the Becoming Colorado book, and just added some primary sources that help define each one of those. And then it's a great discussion to have with students and to see if they understand or if they can make a case for adding this primary source to that particular column.
And what's really interesting in this one as well is you can add the primary sources, but often we'll do a sorting activity with this where you can have the kids scroll through the primary sources because each column will sort within the column. And then you can add a box and actually have the students in that box say why these artifacts connect, what questions they have. So you can put text in here, you can add audio to this. You can also have your primary sources, you can add captions. There's lots of different ways to use it. But instead of just doing a standard sorting activity, you can use it this way. Another option that you can use this for, and we'll give you a reference sheet at the end that gives you lots of examples to use, but you can also use this to give research resources to students, a collection of primary sources, an audio or a video piece, a secondary source, and students can use it as a foundation to actually go in and start their inquiry learning. All right,
We have two more when we're running out of time. So Padlet also has a timeline feature. You can go in and you can add images, video, text to this timeline feature. The thing that I love about this is I can add at any point. So I can go back. I don't have to have things in order. I can go back and add. If I get a date or something, I always have this plus option that's in between two things. So I can never really make a mistake. You can't mess this up. You can just keep adding items to the timeline. So,
and we have ideas to share with this, but I want to point out that think about using timelines in a different way. Think about using them as a primary source with a collection of identifying words, maybe background or contextual information, maybe just a date, maybe have students use a wonderful activity caption writer to practice creating captions for their timeline. We give you several of those in the one pager that we're going to share in just a few minutes. Laura, hit that last one before we're out of here.
All right. Each of those have the option to write a caption as well. And Padlet has this amazing map feature. So you can go in and you can see that you have several walls to choose from. You have the whole world, but then you can zoom in. We actually mapped some specific artifacts in Colorado. So if you go out here to Amache, we went to Bent's Fort. So you can up to Julesburg, you can actually, and it's very easy to add these artifacts to the locations on the map. You could compare those from Colorado to national and international locations as well.
So I'm going to pop in and say that we are going to share a one pager with you, and which in the Two Geeky Teachers world is never really a one pager. It's always longer. That one pager Laura's got up on the screen. We have taken every single type of Padlet for you and given you action examples so that you can see them, including one that we love from the Right Question Institute that you're going to hear about probably on Friday that is using the Right Question Institute resources in a Padlet format. But there's lots of ways to think about Padlet. There are real world classroom examples from our classrooms and how we use this. So dig around, take a look. And then at the very bottom, we've also given you references and resources on how to use Padlet itself. So if you're not comfortable in using Padlet, we've given you the strength to be able to go find it, touch on it. Padlet is one of the easiest tools you can use. You really can start simple with a wall or a little more complicated, but think about trying it out with your kids.
Don't miss this one.
So there you
Great
go. You
job.
just got a lot of Colorado resources. We hope you dive in. If you have questions, let us know. We're in and out of Huva as we teach around the day, just like the rest of us, and we're happy to help.
Well, great job, guys. Thanks. To give us so many wonderful ideas. And so that's wonderful. We appreciate that. Well, it's 8 a.m. and I think it's time for us to log off. I hope you have a good day. And any other housekeeping details, Kyle?
Nope, that sounds good. We'll
No?
see you throughout the rest of the day. Hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Great. Have a good one.